Hi, it's Manfredini, Ace's home expert. In today's video, we're going to show you how to paint an accent wall. It's a great way to bring a pop of color and a focus into a room. Okay, when it comes to choosing accent colors, there's a bunch of different things you can look at inside of a room to choose one. Maybe it's a fabric that you have on a chair or the bedding. We're in a bedroom setting right here. And as you can see, they already have a wall that they place some wallpaper on. And so the homeowner wants to kind of pick up the darker tones within this wallpaper to use on the accent wall, which we have a sample here that kind of gets a blend in between there. Now you can either go to the hardware store and choose swatches like this, or if you have something like a piece of the wallpaper or some fabric, it can be color matched, and then that's what you would use on a wall. So in this particular case, this is the color that the homeowner chose. And now what we're going to do is tape off this wall and apply the paint to create the accent wall. Okay, make sure that before you do any painting, you remove any of the covers that might be on the receptacles, anything that you don't want to get paint onto. And then any imperfections in the wall you want to take care of with a little wall spackle, which we've already done. Now I'm going to use some painter's tape to tape off the area because we're just going to paint this one wall, and we want to make sure that the paint that we apply on that wall doesn't end up on other surfaces.
Now, what I'm going to do is put this tape on, and I want to go right on top of this edge right here of the trim. So the trick with the smaller tape is to cut it in small pieces, and you really have to work on your detail to kind of get it set in place and work it with your nail. So you set that right on top there, so you get it nice and tight. The whole idea is that you want that tape to cover that spot, and then use your fingernail or a tool to set it in there and then press it in place. Once that's there, take a damp rag. It's kind of a painter's professional trick to set that back down there, and then get another piece and keep working your way down. This is the detail work that's going to make all the difference in the world. And you have to set that piece of tape so the edge locks in there so that the paint doesn't bleed underneath the tape. So this is really important that you push it in place and set it.
Okay, we're making our way with the painter's tape around the area to kind of tape off the area where we're going to put the accent paint on. Remember, there's wallpaper here, and so it's okay to use painter's tape on top of wallpaper, but that whole release point that I told you about is very important. So when you go to paint this wall, I don't want this tape to be on the wallpaper for too long, because you run the risk of actually tearing the paper. So get the paint job done. Hopefully you don't have that tape on there more than 24 hours, and then remove it slowly and carefully. Okay, it's time to actually cut in around all the areas on the wall that we put the tape on. We're using a Clark & Kensington in an eggshell. The color is called Silk and Satin. I like to use a smaller container instead of working out of the gallon, so I'm just going to pour a little bit into this container here. You don't need a lot because you're just going to be cutting in. When you're cutting in around here, remember we set all the tape, we know everything's good, and then we're going to go and take the brush and we're going to paint a little bit, maybe like 2.5 inches wide. So we're going to cut around all the areas here to put our first coat of paint on there so that when we go back and roll it, we don't get the roller onto the wall area. And so we're going to work our way through here and start applying the paint. Okay, the wall's cut in. Now it's time to actually put the paint on the wall using a roller. I'm using a 3/8 inch nap semi-smooth roller cover. I've got a roller frame and I'm using an extension pole. Even though I'm tall enough to kind of reach this without the extension pole, it does give you better control, and I have found that when you use a pole, you can just apply the paint much easier. So I think you'll find that it really does work out well. Now, when it comes to getting the paint on there, you want to make sure that first couple passes, you got to load up the roller. And so you're going to kind of spin it, move it in there, and you can see how I'm loading up that roller with the paint. I'm going to start applying the paint. And you know, there's a lot of debate about whether you make a W or an M, whatever it is. I have found that you just got to go slowly and apply the paint and kind of step back. You want to make sure you have good lighting so you can see what's going on. And once you feel like, oh, I've got good coverage there, then take that roller back to the pan. But with the roller, you don't want it to dry out. Remember, we're talking a couple of hours. Maybe we're going to put a fan on there. Trick is to take a little plastic bag like this and just wrap that roller up. That way it won't dry out. It'll kind of stay in there, kind of wet and moist, and then in a couple hours you can take it all off and start over again. Okay, with the paint dry, it's now time to remove the painter's tape. Now this you want to be careful with because the paint is still wet. And remember, I put 2 layers of tape here, so you want to just gently pull this away. I'm just going to kind of do one at a time. And that's it. If you need more help, just go to your local Ace Hardware store. We are always willing to help you. And remember to follow us on our YouTube channel. And you can always visit us at acehardware.com. Ace is the helpful place.